scene script. Has the application of force always been a necessary component of military interventions? What do you think? Traditionally, the concept of force has been synonymous with military interventions. It's a belief ingrained deeply in the annals of human history, where might often dictated right. The idea is simple. To maintain peace, to ensure security, a certain degree of force is necessary, even inevitable. Let's roll back the clock and dig into the archaic yet formative times of military history. Consider the Persian Wars, where the mighty Greeks defended their homeland against an expansive Persian empire. Their victory wasn't a product of diplomacy or negotiations, but the result of brute force, battle strategies, and the sheer will to protect their home. Or take a leap forward to the medieval times, the era of knights and castles, where the battlefield was an everyday reality. The Crusades, those religiously motivated military campaigns, were marked by a stark application of force. The objective was clear: reclaim the Holy Land. And the method? Well, it was a path paved with violence and force. Even as we ushered in the modern era, force remained a crucial component of military interventions. World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the list goes on. Each of these significant events in our collective human history was marked by the application of force, albeit in different forms and scales. But the role of force isn't just limited to the battlefield. It is also a tool of deterrence, a show of strength to discourage potential aggressors. The Cold War era is a prime example of this, where the threat of force, nuclear force to be precise, kept a tense peace between two global superpowers. So, yes, force has been a key player in military interventions throughout history. But here's the thing: the role of force isn't static. It's not a monolithic concept eternally bound to the idea of violence and destruction. As our societies have evolved, so too has the nature of force. It's been an evolution from brute to strategic, from the physical to the technological. Force has been a key player in military interventions throughout history, but its role has been evolving. As the world evolved, so did the application of force in military interventions. But how? This question takes us on a journey of transformation, from the brute force era to the era of strategic force. In the early part of the 20th century, military interventions were often characterized by brute force. It was a game of numbers, with the side boasting the most soldiers, the most guns, or the most tanks, often emerging victorious. The two world wars were prime examples of this brute force approach, where sheer manpower and weaponry often determined the outcome of battles. But as the century progressed, a shift began to emerge. The Korean War and the Vietnam War, for instance, underscored the limitations of brute force. Despite having superior numbers and firepower, the United States found it challenging to achieve its objectives. These conflicts highlighted that winning a war was not merely about overpowering the enemy, but about understanding the terrain, the culture, the people, and the politics. This shift from brute force to strategic force was further cemented during the Gulf War in the early 90s. Here, the United States-led coalition showcased the power of strategy, technology, and precision. It wasn't the number of troops or tanks that mattered most, but how they were used. The coalition's successful use of smart bombs, stealth aircraft, and superior tactics highlighted the importance of strategy over sheer power. In essence, the shift to strategic force underscored the need for intelligent planning, precision, and a comprehensive understanding of the battlefield. It marked a move away from the might-is-right mentality to a more nuanced approach, where understanding the enemy, the environment, and the broader political landscape became just as crucial as having a well-equipped army. This shift didn't mean that brute force became obsolete, far from it. But it did mean that brute force alone was no longer enough. Strategy started to take precedence over brute strength, marking a significant shift in the way military interventions were carried out. Technology has revolutionized many aspects of our lives, but how has it affected the role of force in military interventions? As we delve into the realm of technological force, we encounter a paradigm shift in the way military power is executed. Gone are the days when armies solely depended on the physical prowess of their soldiers. Today, technology has emerged as the new titan on the battlefield, reshaping the nature of warfare and military interventions. The evolution of technology has brought forth an era where force is not merely about brute strength or strategic maneuvers. It's about precision, efficiency, and a reduced reliance on human soldiers. This shift is largely due to a slew of technological innovations that have become instrumental in military operations. Take, for example, the advent of drones. These unmanned aerial vehicles have changed the game, allowing for surgical strikes with unprecedented accuracy. They've minimized collateral damage and reduced the risk to human life. Similarly, satellite technology has provided a bird's-eye view of the battlefield, enabling real-time strategic planning and execution. Then there's the rise of cyber warfare. This new frontier of conflict has moved battles from physical to digital terrain. With the power to cripple infrastructure, disrupt communication, and sow discord without firing a single bullet, cyber warfare exemplifies the power of technological force. Artificial intelligence is another game changer. From autonomous weapon systems to predictive analytics and threat assessment, AI is redefining the way force is applied in military interventions. It's not just about having the biggest army anymore, it's about having the smartest one. The list goes on, with innovations like stealth technology, advanced robotics, and even virtual reality training programs. Each of these technologies has played a part in the rise of technological force, shifting the focus from manpower to brainpower. Technology has given a new dimension to force, making it more precise and less reliant on manpower. The role of force in military interventions has been transformed, and as we'll see in our next segment, this transformation is shaping the contemporary role of force. In the contemporary world, what role does force play in military interventions? This is a question that has become increasingly important as we navigate through the complexities of modern warfare. The traditional concept of military force, that raw exhibition of power and might, has evolved significantly. Force, in today's context, is no longer just about displaying overwhelming power or causing extensive damage. The focus has shifted towards a more strategic and calculated application of force, with an emphasis on minimizing civilian casualties and harm to infrastructure. This shift can be attributed to the heightened awareness and sensitivity towards the human cost of war. The global community has become more conscious of the devastating impact of military interventions on civilian populations and infrastructure. Consequently, the use of force has been compelled to adapt, leading to the development of precision-guided munitions, advanced surveillance systems, and other technologies designed to minimize collateral damage. The concept of just war has also significantly influenced the application of force. Just war theory, a philosophy that seeks to establish a moral framework for warfare, emphasizes the importance of proportionality and discrimination in the use of force. The idea is to ensure that the force used is proportional to the military objective, and that it discriminately targets combatants while sparing non-combatants. In the contemporary world, military interventions are increasingly characterized by a delicate balancing act. On one hand, there is the need to use force to achieve strategic objectives and maintain global order. On the other, there is the moral and ethical obligation to minimize harm to civilian populations and infrastructure. This shift in the role of force has ushered in a new era of warfare, where power is not just about brute strength, but also about the ability to apply force judiciously and strategically. It is about understanding the complexities of the modern battlefield and adapting to them. Today, the role of force in military interventions is not just about overpowering the enemy, but about minimizing harm and achieving strategic objectives. It's about striking a balance between the necessity of force and the imperative of restraint. It's about navigating the delicate terrain between power and responsibility, between might and right. Looking into the future, how might the role of force in military interventions continue to evolve? It's a question that invites speculation, but also analysis, as we consider the trends that have brought us to where we are today. Firstly, let's consider technology. We've already seen the rise of drones and cyber warfare, and these elements are likely to become even more prominent. But we're also likely to see new developments, perhaps in the realm of artificial intelligence or robotics, that could further change the landscape. Imagine a future where conflicts are resolved not by soldiers on the ground, but by machines, directed remotely or even making decisions autonomously. Next, let's think about global politics. As the balance of power shifts, so too may the ways in which force is applied. We may see a move away from large-scale interventions towards more localized, targeted actions. Or we might see an increased focus on multinational cooperation, with force being applied not by individual nations, but by coalitions of countries working together. Finally, there's the question of ethics. As our understanding of the human cost of military interventions grows, there's likely to be a continued push towards minimizing harm. This may mean a greater emphasis on precision strikes or on non-lethal interventions. It could also mean a greater scrutiny of the decision to use force in the first place, with a higher burden of proof required to justify military action. Of course, these are just possibilities. The future is notoriously difficult to predict, and the factors that will shape the role of force in military interventions are numerous and complex. But one thing is clear: the role of force is not static. It's constantly evolving, shaped by the interplay of technology, politics, and ethics. The role of force in military interventions is constantly evolving, shaped by technology, politics, and ethics. It remains to be seen how it will continue to change in the future. So as we look ahead, it's worth keeping an open mind and a keen eye on the horizon,